A high-pitched cry for help by problematic_Lana on AO3. Chapter 19. Warding is essential. The next few days, Mike had to step in with caring for Izuku. It wasn't as if Shouta was never there, but most of the time he had long and tiring shifts helping patrol and investigate the area where the head of Inko Midoriya was found. A week into the opening of the case, the missing body was yet to be found, and Nayuasa, Mike, and Aizawa had decided to keep it under the radar until they had more information on it. It was already obvious that it would be a hard case, but keeping everything hidden from the kid just felt wrong in every possible way. It was his mother, after all. But without information, nor the body, they couldn't even make a proper burial, let alone answer whatever the kid may ask when he found out. They themselves had no answers. Just one clean cut to the head. No sign of any trauma, no blood, no hard edges. The poor woman was decapitated post-mortem and in a place far away from the warehouse where she was found, since there was no trace left of any blood or tools to indicate it happened there. She had been decapitated postpartum, probably with a power tool or a quirk. The exam also revealed that she had most definitely died from oxygen deprivation. But that didn't rule out anything, really. There was no smoke or trace of water in her nose. So they had, as the best option, manual asphyxiation. For now, the police believe that the head was put there as a warning, either for the police itself or for other criminal groups, as it was a high alert zone for drug and gun trafficking. But how did Inko end up there? She didn't seem to have any connections with that kind of criminal activity, and in her old house, there were only signs of child neglect and maybe domestic abuse. No drugs, no weapons, nor money laundering that led to that conclusion. Hence why it was hard to place any new charges. As for Hisashi, it was as if he disappeared in thin air. The police had absolutely no way of finding him. The car under his name was trashed in a nearby highway, completely clean of anything. It was so clean, even, that it took them a month alone to find out it was his only because a replacement had a serial number that registered as sold and installed in that specific car. Izuku had tried and concealed the fact that he missed seeing Aizawa on a daily basis. Most of the days he really wanted to see him, and the days the urge and loneliness got too strong, he would pretend to be asleep and waited until he came back after a late night patrol. He would only peek through the almost closed door of his room, not wanting to blow his cover. Izuku is smart. He knew that something had to have happened for him to suddenly come home so late and leave so early. He still appreciated when Shouta would come in to let a good-night kiss in his forehead, or when he said goodbye before leaving, even though he thought he was sleeping. But he just really wanted to play and learn things from him again. The kid didn't have the courage to ask Mike if he was tired of dealing with him. But if it happened with his parents, and even his teachers, why would this time be any different? At least he had Mike, and he got to spend his afternoon studying with him and Nezu, although Mike mostly just listened and stood there confused. When Mike also had to go to work, most times in the morning, he would let him spend the time with Nemuri, who insisted in being called Auntie. But he ended up giving her a sign name that translated as asleep. It had some sense because of the way her name sounded like the word sleep, but it was kind of weird because it didn't quite fit her personality. She also was now trying her best to learn some sign language, and that only made Izuku feel a bit guilty, like a burden, even. And like a loop, he started overthinking. He didn't want other people to accommodate him or even grow tired of him. He just wanted to be able to be with other kids and have what others had. But at the end of the day, he always made things difficult, making others learn sign language, making others prepare a room for him, spending money on him like a liability. Even Nezu used this time to teach him things. Funnily enough, the creature was the one to notice his dark mood first. Hisashi, would you be so kind as to go to the teacher's lounge for more cocoa? I'm afraid I ran out, he said, after pretending to look for it, while making tea for him and Mike. And while you go, you can check out the place and maybe recommend for updates when you start working here next year? Mike simply smiled, petting the green curls and excusing himself. Izuku was taken aback when he closed the folder they were working on. As the lessons were going on for a week, they were still doing some research on stress-induced quirks, and they would only proceed to investigate his quirk once Aizawa was able to attend their sessions. I believe you have a lot more of the potential your mind is allowing you to give today, Midoriya. Izuku moved awkwardly in his chair, not looking at the mouse. I think that something is bothering you, and it may be better to get it off your back. I'm very good at problem solving, if that brings you any comfort. When Izuku brought himself to look at the bear-like creature, his eyes watered, but he didn't allow them to become full of tears. He knew Nezu was beyond intelligent, but perspective too? What did he do to let him know? Aizawa is tired, he sighed, mostly because he didn't know how to describe it. He couldn't describe a feeling he couldn't name. Yes. I know from another source that he's now in charge of more investigation, so it's only logical for him to be tired. He actually always looks tired. Is that a problem? Tired of me, he corrected himself, trying to explain it as a fact rather than an emotion. All people tired of me. People tired. People leave. Nezu made a pause, realizing the current problem was far out of his hands. He was never one for human emotions, and far from being able to provide emotional support for anyone, let alone a kid this young. In all honesty, he was interested in Izuku's abilities and brain matter. The chemical reaction motions had on the body and mind was something he had never taken as a subject matter. And in your experience, do you think that the people that left before are worth keeping? Izuku didn't seem to fully understand the statement, so he talked again. Human emotions are very hard to understand when you're not the one feeling them. So what I can tell you is that this is a matter of emotions, Midoriya. The emotion you feel towards Aizawa should not depend on what others made you feel with other actions. If you see that Aizawa is tired when he spends all day outside, has it occurred to you that what he is tired of is outside? Nezu stood up and sat on top of his desk. If I were to put the negative emotion I had from past events, it would not be fair on those who weren't there. But having people know about these previous events helps them understand what unavoidable reaction I may experience towards certain actions or words. Problem Child was somewhat aware of the experimentation Nezu went through. Exactly as he said, Mike had talked to him about it in a way to warn him to not bring some topics for discussion. This may be a secret, but I was told to help speed up the adoption papers under your name. The white creature smiled, this time more cheery. I do believe this is good news that will cheer you up. I adopt, the youngest sighed. I'm afraid children cannot adopt other children. The fact is, adoption papers have your name in it. There are only certain emotions that could lead to an adoption. Unfortunately, their time was cut short, as Mike reappeared with the cocoa in hand. The lesson also died right there, and although Nezu was fairly proud about how he handled the situation, he could have not known the domino effect it had on Izuku. That night, Izuku was left a nervous mess in his room, refusing to tell Mike anything when he realized the little one looked so distressed. Hisashi made sure to make a reminder to ask Nezu tomorrow first thing in the morning what had happened when he left, as it was obvious the change in character the greenie had in those 10 minutes. As smart as Izuku was, he always had trouble feeling wanted. He was not really familiar with what an adoption entailed, so he made sure to look it up that night. It was the first time he dared to use Aizawa's computer without supervision, and he later regretted it all. A couple of searches was all it took for him to understand, wrongly, what Nezu talked about. Maybe if Nezu said, "You are being adopted," Izuku would not have understand, "You're being put up for adoption." Maybe then, Izuku would have not escaped a 3-story building apartment from a window in the dead of night. Nezu! Nezu! I'm not even cutting it. Nezu, what did you do? Nezu, we talked about this. Nezu, you're feeling silly goofy, Nezu. We leave the talk of emotional stuff to people who understand empathy. Nezu, look, I love you. I do. But in all the fanfictions I've written, I've read. Well, I mean, I've written a lot, but not many of My Hero Academia. And by not many, I mean I haven't written any that isn't Fluffy Mind, and haven't even started on that one. But Nezu. Honey, sweetie, darling, Nezu. Bear, mouse, trapezoid, whatever the fuck you are, Nezu. Why the okay, it wasn't really Nezu's fault. It's Izuku's jumping to the worst case scenario, which, again, this is a trauma response. To get one, and instead of thinking, oh, I'm getting adopted, think, oh, I'm getting put for adoption, right? Going straight to the worst case scenario is literally a sign of trauma. Not necessarily that you're always, it's a sign of trauma in the sense that you were always dealt the wrong hand. So as a coping mechanism, you always expect the wrong hand. Therefore, you don't get your hopes up and you don't get crushed because you know it's happening and you're mentally preparing yourself for the worst because you know that's gonna happen. It always happens. So another sign of, whatever. I thought this was gonna be cute where Izuku's like, oh, he finally talks. That's the domino effect, not this. And he jumps out oh my god. And then Aizawa's gonna see that his laptop's there. They're gonna see the adoption thingy. Then they're probably gonna think, either one, Izuku doesn't want to get adopted, or two, oh shit, he took this the wrong way. Who told him? I don't know. I don't know what's gonna happen. Nezu. Oh my god. I can't even be mad at him. Okay, so I feel like Nezu in the story is not gonna be an evil guy. I think that talk he had with Izuku, I feel like he genuinely is like, okay, I want to comfort this child, but I don't know how to comfort. Here, facts. I hope this helps. It didn't help, but he tried. Here, little pats for Nezu. Everybody in the comments, just put Nezu with a little exclamation mark. Nezu, we talked about this. But yeah, as always, my raindrops, make sure to eat, sleep, drink water, take your meds. Have a wonderful day or night. Link to my Discord server and socials are down in the description. Subscribe to see more of my content, and thank you so much for watching.